Coming to you from the Lydia Media Studios in the heart of Lewiston, Auburn, it's Lydia's Lunch Bunch, LA's afternoon morning show with Mark and Pam today. Sarah's off.
She's digging out.
She's digging out? Well, why are we here?
I don't know.
We're covering news and events in the greater LA area and talking to the people making a difference in our community. Give us a listen at LydiaMediaLLC.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And feel free to share your comments, questions, or suggestions via email at podcast@LydiaMediaLLC.com.
Today's show is brought to you by United Piping, serving residential and commercial customers with new installations and repairs. Call today and schedule your oil and gas boiler cleanings at 754-4556. UPI, the best plumbers around. And by Ruper's Beverage and Redemption. When it comes to beer, wine, and spirits, don't botch it, squatch it. At 5 locations in Lewiston, Auburn, and Oxford. Learn more at rupersbeverage.com, and remember, the party starts at Ruper's.
Our guest in studio today is the owner of Little Dragon Integrative Medicine, John Alsobrooks. How you doing?
Hey, good to be here.
We're happy to have you. I'm glad you got to dig yourself out and be here with us this morning. It's just a lovely time of year, isn't it?
It's Mark's favorite, can you tell?
I love everything about it. The cold, the snow, the frozen pipes, the car's not starting. It's a winter wonderland is what it is.
Winter wonderland.
We're going to talk to John all about Little Dragon coming up here in just a bit. But before we get there, let's take a look at some headlines for Monday, February 17th.
Local craft beer prices are expected to rise as 25% tariffs will be imposed on imported steel and aluminum. The tariffs are scheduled to take effect on March 12th and will be enforced without exceptions or exemptions. Most of the aluminum used in Maine comes from Canada, including the metal used for beer cans.
The Sun Journal reports that the LAP commuter bus connecting Lewiston, Auburn, and Portland rolled out a new text notification system to inform riders about delays and service cancellations. The service also improved its scheduling to a more mobile-friendly model with real-time vehicle tracking. More information can be found at maine.gov/MDOT.
Senator Angus King co-sponsored legislation allowing surviving spouses of fallen service members to retain certain survivor benefits if they remarry. Under current law, most benefits from the Department of Defense and the Department of Veterans Affairs are terminated for surviving spouses who remarry before age 55.
And Senator Susan Collins received the Fraternal Order of Police National President's Legislative Advocacy Award. The FOP recognized Collins for her more than 2 decades of work to repeal the windfall elimination provision and government pension offset with the Social Security Fairness Act signed into law last month.
And here we are with the beautiful weather. Partly sunny and windy today. Gusts are expected to reach 24 miles per hour. Highs in the teens and lows in the single digits. Cloudy tomorrow with a high of 17 and low of 5. Sunny on Wednesday with temps approaching 30.
In sports, Elsa Delario scored 13 points and grabbed 9 rebounds to lead Bates women's basketball over Tufts 62-46. The Bobcats secured the number 5 seed for the NESCAC tournament. They'll play number 4 Amherst on Saturday.
Nice. Caden Moore scored 19 points to lead the CMCC men's basketball team over Albany College of Pharmacy 89-72. CM women's basketball will host Albany this afternoon at 3 p.m.
The May Nordiques host the Johnstown Tomahawks on Friday and Saturday at the Colisee.
The NA3 Nordiques host the Norwich Sea Captains on Friday afternoon.
In high school girls basketball playoffs, Class D South quarterfinal, number 6 Temple Academy takes on number 3 St. Dom's. They tipped off at 9 a.m. this morning at the Augusta Civic Center. And Class A South quarterfinal, number 6 Kennebunk takes on number 3 Grey New Gloucester at 1 p.m. at the Portland Expo. That's your news, weather, and sports. And right now it is time for the podcast segment that is Sweeping the Twin Cities. Is it, Pam?
I don't know.
Okay.
Let's find out.
It's time for famous people birthdays.
They're famous. It's their birthdays. It's famous people birthdays. It's famous people birthdays.
Let's take a look at FPBs for February the 17th.
You gave me high hopes.
I know.
You said there was a lot of good ones.
I said there was one that you might know.
One.
And that is Paris Hilton, who is 44 years old today.
We only know her as reality TV star, right? And besides her famous last name.
I think it was The Simple Life with her and Nicole Richie. All right, you familiar with that one, John? No?
Good for you.
Keep it away from me. She coined the phrase, "That's hot," I think.
I mean, I forgot about that. Thanks for the reminder.
You are welcome. Actor Jerry O'Connell is 51 years old today.
That's hot.
He was in Stand By Me in 1986.
Oh, that was a great film.
He was also in Jerry Maguire, played Frank Cushman. He was in Scream 2, and married to Rebecca Romaine O'Connell.
All right.
Singer and guitarist Billy Joe Armstrong of Green Day is 53 years old today. You've heard of Green Day.
Yes.
Okay.
I love Green Day.
I need to check. Sometimes...
Yeah, I know. I don't know a lot of these people most of the time. But yes, I love Green Day. If I had to pick them out of a crowd, I never could. Mm-hmm. So there's that. But isn't it funny, like all of these bands, though, are going on tours again and kind of like picking it up where they left off, of.
They need money.
They got nothing else.
When you're a rock star, you're not exactly concentrating on saving your money and thinking about retirement.
There was no plan B.
That's right. There's no plan B. And that's just my assumption. For all I know, Billy Joe Armstrong could be set for life. Who knows?
He has a better retirement than I do, I'm sure.
I don't know. Actor Denise Richards is 54 years old today. She was in Wild Things in 98.
Oh, yeah.
And the James Bond film The World Is Not Enough in 99. And wasn't she married to Charlie Sheen?
I think so.
For a spell, yeah. Larry the Cable Guy is 62 today, also known as Daniel Lawrence Whitney.
No, Larry the Cable Guy. That's how I know him.
Sure, Daniel Lawrence Whitney. I wonder how many tickets that guy would sell.
I don't know.
But
around here, maybe quite a few.
Maybe, yeah. You know Larry from the Blue Collar Comedy Tour with Bill Engvall and Ron White.
And Mater.
Jeff Foxworthy. And Mater. From Cars.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Witless Protection movie. And Larry the Cable Guy, Health Inspector.
I have never even heard of Witless Protection.
It stars Larry the Cable Guy. How good is it going to be? You know?
What if he's listening,
I'm
Mark?
sorry. I'm just spewing venom here this morning, Pam. I don't know what it is.
It's Monday. We have 12 feet of snow outside.
Right. That's right.
Mark is not happy.
Lou Diamond Phillips is 63 years old today.
La Bamba.
La
right?
Bamba, yes.
I loved that movie.
And also Young Guns in the late 80s and early 90s.
What is he doing now?
I'm not sure.
Anyway, living the dream, probably. Staying out of the spotlight.
That's
Leave me alone,
right.
he says.
Yeah, set himself up and enjoying, who knows, maybe he retired, maybe he hasn't. But, you know, I'll tell you, he's not going on tour with Green Day.
No. He passed.
Actor Richard Karn is 69 years old today. You know him as Al from Home Improvement.
Is he the one where you portray him with your monitor?
Oh, no. He's not the guy that looks over the fence. He was Tim Allen's sidekick. On Tool Time. And rounding out FPBs for February the 17th is Rene Russo, who is 71 years old today. My favorite movie with Rene Russo, well, actually there's two. Major League and Tin Cup. Have you seen those?
Yeah. I've seen, yes. Major League, I've seen multiple times.
Yeah.
Tin Cup, I think I've seen once, but great movies.
John, you a golfer?
I am not.
How are you a doctor and not a golfer?
That's a good question. Maybe being trained outside of the U.S. had something to do with it.
Probably.
Okay,
Yeah.
yep, gotcha.
Golf, not a big sport in China.
Yeah. All right.
Do they play any sports?
Oh,
Ping
yeah.
pong?
Yeah, that's it. National sport. Table tennis.
There you go. All right, those are your FPBs for February the 17th.
Whether you want a sit-down meal or a grab-and-go, Pat's Pizza in Auburn offers delicious sandwiches, pasta, salads, and pizza at family-friendly prices. Pat's Pizza, serving the L.A. area since 1985. Open daily from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. at 85 Center Street in Auburn. Online at patsauburn.com.
Now we shift focus fully to our guest in studio, the owner of Little Dragon Integrative Medicine, John Alsobrooks. John, my first question to you is, what exactly is is Little Dragon Integrative Medicine?
It's my private practice here in Lewiston, Maine, right on Main Street, 369 Main Street. I came back to the U.S. after spending about 13 years in China, and there weren't a lot of options as far as looking for work. There's not a lot of people here, I guess, hiring for what I do, so little option left. So had to start my own business, and that's what we did. It started in 2023. At the end of the summer there was the official opening. Had my first patient, I believe, in August. And, it was a slow start, but things have really started to pick up. We offer treatment modalities that are personalized for people's care, really focused on maybe the more complementary or alternative side of things. A lot of people search acupuncture in the area, and that's one of the main things that they come in for. But we do offer a wide variety of treatments, really specialized for the individual.
And listeners who are also subscribers and fans of LA Metro Magazine will recognize John from the feature Simple Alternatives that was in the winter issue that just came out recently. So be sure to check that out. John, when did your, I don't know if I should call it a fascination or curiosity with Eastern medicine begin?
It's a little bit of a story here. I came up to Maine at, 17, 18. So it was like my senior year of high school, from the New Orleans area in Louisiana.
It's a little different.
A little different, that's for sure. But, I came up here and, wanted to, find some kind of martial art to get into. There was actually a person that lived near where I was in the Farmington area who was teaching like a traditional Chinese martial art. And I was like Bruce Lee and Jet Li and Jackie Chan and all that stuff. So I got into the Chinese martial arts. And through that, began to learn a little bit about what we call channels or meridians. And, they talked about pressure points, and there were all these cool names for things. So my fascination was through that. I really turned into like this Chinese martial arts geek. And, I was the kid at school, like wearing the kung fu gi all the time and like doing kicks in the hallway and stuff. And so, it really started there. And then I took some time off, went back to school at the University of Maine at Farmington. I'm still practicing martial arts through this entire time, Chinese martial arts. And I found out that the school had a Mandarin Chinese program. And so I started learning the language. I picked it up really quickly. I really enjoyed it. And everything just kind of developed from there. My family here in Maine are kind of in the healthcare field. And so, I thought maybe I'd probably lean towards that a little bit. And, I didn't really want to go through the allopathic or, Western medicine side. I just felt like it wasn't serving our population the best. It was kind of evident even back then, with the rise in, chronic conditions that Americans were facing, and realizing are these pharmaceuticals, are these interventions really improving outcomes for people? And so that's where, the medical side of things came from. So I went to UMF. I loved it there. It was a really great experience. Half of my program was like Mandarin Chinese. The other half was biomedical sciences, because I wanted to go to China and, learn more about Chinese medicine. There was a study abroad program. My first time I went was in 2008. I spent a semester at the Beijing University of Technology. After that, I stayed. I met my kung fu teacher in Beijing. I ended up living with him during the summer. We were training 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, and doing the whole Chinese martial arts thing. After that, came back to Maine, graduated, really wanted to go back to China, and so that's what I did. I found a teaching position. So after I finished my undergrad, I went back to Beijing to work at an international school. I knew I wanted to go to a school in China for Chinese medicine, but I didn't want to do it in English. They do have an English program at the university, but I wanted to do it in its, in the native language. I was like, go to the source, be able to learn these things in Chinese, really embody, embrace the culture, the language, everything about it. And that's what I did.
So fascinating. What is the language called again? I'm drawing a blank.
Mandarin
Mandarin,
Chinese.
thank you.
Yeah,
yes. I feel like it's different than Spanish or French or, I feel like it would be a more difficult thing. So just to think about learning, all of your college and your education in a different language like Mandarin is just fascinating to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's, how would you say this? So a lot of times I still get the Chinese words that's stuck in my head before the English comes out. So I get caught up every now and again. When it comes to learning languages for native English speakers, there are usually 3 at the top are for the most difficult. That's usually Chinese, Japanese, Arabic, and so it depends on what your target language is, how close that is to your native language,
Right.
and there's definitely levels of ease and difficulty when it comes to learning
Makes sense, yeah.
second languages.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get acclimated to Chinese culture?
I was straight in. I went full native, and by the time I left, no joke, no lie, people in China, Chinese-born natives, were like, "Hey, you're more Chinese than we are." What's going on here? So it didn't take me that long because I worked really hard when I was an undergrad to pick up the language, and I made friends with the visiting professors. We spent a lot of time together, so I was kind of used to their culture a little bit just by hanging out in Farmington, around campus, going to the store, going down to Portland. They didn't have transportation. I had a vehicle, so I would take them to the grocery store, and they would point out and help train me in the language while we were shopping. And so,
why is this food neon blue?
Yeah, well, something like that. There were lots of questions around, what is this stuff here? That was interesting.
Yeah.
But I would say within 2 years, and it took me that long after moving back to China, for my language to be at the point where I could actually take the entrance exam to get into medical school. So it was about 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, not that we don't love having you here, but why come back? Why come back if you're so
I knew
fascinated?
This question was going to come up. So I'll keep it, I guess, as simple as I can. It was the pandemic. So, things got really strange in China. I lost my job. I wasn't able to renew my visa. I got kicked out of the hospital that I was working in, and things just got really strange. And we'll just say the anti-American sentiment was more than I had ever experienced before.
Yeah.
And so it was like, it's time to head out while we still can.
Yeah.
And so, I come back to Maine because my family, still lives here, and I wanted to be closer to them. And, tried my hand in Portland for a few months. That didn't really work out. I have, when we came back, I had spent my entire adult life abroad. I had no renter's history, no credit history, nothing at all. So it was really difficult just to find a place to rent, and get a credit card. These things were quite difficult. It took a while to get set up. Yeah, Lewiston and Auburn's been really good for us, actually, and it's not, I have to be honest, when we were coming back, I was like, I do not want to be in Lewiston. It's the last place I wanted to be. And then, divine intervention, somehow, we got placed in this spot, and it's actually been really good for us, so I'm very happy to be here now.
Fantastic.
Funny how those things work out.
Yeah, definitely. What was the process like for you opening up your own practice?
Very difficult. It was the last thing I wanted to do. I mean, it was kind of terrifying, to be honest. I spent all of my previous 15 years just in studies. I was practicing martial arts. I had a lot of part-time jobs. I had been working for myself for a while abroad. But as far as opening a legitimate business here in the States, I had no idea what it was going to be like. Now, thankfully, we don't have the bureaucratic system that is called the Chinese Communist Party. We didn't have to deal with that kind of red tape, so it was much easier than trying to do something like that in China. So thankfully, U.S. is pretty good at allowing people from, different backgrounds to actually get a foot in the door, and that's the beauty of America. Once I did get started, it was it's not nearly as difficult as I imagined it was going to be. Yeah, so here we are, things are working out pretty well.
Yeah. And can you talk about some of the services you provide at Little Dragon?
Right, so acupuncture is a big one. a lot of people, the major search is, acupuncture near me, and, it comes right up on a Google search. So that's a big one. But we also have Asian bodywork therapy, which is kind of a mixture of different massage techniques that really come from different, East Asian backgrounds. So Asian bodywork therapy, cupping, scraping, moxibustion, that's a big one that people don't really know about, because, going to physical therapists, chiropractors, they do some of these techniques as well, cupping, some of the scraping. They call it different names, but it's, it all comes from these East Asian practices. So moxibustion it's a heat therapy, actually. It's dried herb that is, lit on one end, and we can do it directly or indirectly. Most of the time we'll do it indirectly here in the States because we don't want to cause blistering or scarring, and we just warm up parts of the body with this. It's a roll of dried herb that has been lit on fire, and it's not on fire like as in flames, but it's smoldering at one end. And so you use that. It's very comfortable. It's very relaxing. And, a lot of people enjoy it. We can do it over needles. If we insert needles for acupuncture, we can do it right over the needle, warm up that point. Or we can do it without needles. If people are afraid of needles, moxa is a good alternative, especially if they have something we would call blood stasis in Chinese medicine. Like blood's just not flowing very well. Things are getting stuck, coagulated, maybe swollen in some instances. So applying heat directly to those areas can be very beneficial. So moxibustion is another one. Nutritional counseling, both from an Eastern and Western perspective. Exercise prescription, really coming from the American College of Sports Medicine, their basic prescription for exercise, including, cardiorespiratory, strength and endurance, resistance training, flexibility, etc. I was teaching martial arts when I was abroad. I was teaching at my university. We had the #1 wushu. Wushu is a type of performative martial arts in China, the stuff you see in the Jackie Chan movies. And so our school in Beijing had the #1 wushu team in the country. And so I got to practice with them a little bit. And I started teaching while I was in China, teaching martial arts to the local population under the supervision of my own, I would say, sensei. I don't know, what would you call it here? It's a martial arts teacher. It's a Japanese word, but I think people would understand that. So while I was doing that, I was like, I might as well get certified as a personal trainer, kind of, get a little side job. So I did that. Certified as a personal trainer, and then got certified in exercise is medicine through the American College of Sports Medicine. So I like to use that a lot. That's really the foundation for a lot of my patients. Nutrition, exercise, there's so many chronic conditions that can be addressed with that, and then build from there. What do we need? Acupuncture? Do we need massage? Do we need some other lifestyle intervention? So
what are people coming to see you for when they request acupuncture? What does it treat?
There's a list on the website of conditions treated, and here's the nuance here. The caveat is we can treat just about anything. How effective it's going to be really depends on the exact nature of the condition, the skill of the practitioner, etc. So acupuncture, we were working in a hospital, and we would spend time in different wards, very, very similar, to med students here in the U.S., and we do rounds in different. My specialty was, acupuncture, massage, these types of things. But we would spend time in the cardiovascular ward, and how do we use acupuncture for people who are suffering from, cardiovascular disease, in the encephalopathy, so neurological conditions having to do with the brain, stroke, TIA, these types of things, autoimmune conditions, gastrointestinal conditions. Lots of things can be treated. Now, it depends, again, on the exact nature of the condition, how far the progression is, where they're at in their lives. So, as a whole, the packages that people get, the plans that people get, can address a lot of these things. But, we don't say no to Western medicine either, So if we need pharmaceutical interventions, if we need surgery, it's not something that, we're just saying no to either. So a lot of people don't realize that in order to become a doctor of any medicine in China, you have to have a medical degree first. And so you do learn allopathic medicine. We do spend a lot of time in internal medicine and also surgery. And so, technically it's an MD from China, doing very much the same things that we do here in hospitals, except, we have a lot more tools in our tool belt. So, we can use acupuncture, we can use herbal medicine, we can use, pharmaceuticals, surgery, we do it all together. And so what I like to do here is try to work with other doctors, MDs, DOs that are treating patients and figure out, where are they maybe lacking in their care, what else might be useful to help in what they're already doing. And for people who can't, for whatever reason, take pharmaceutical medications, or if they just refuse to, it is an alternative.
Right.
So,
would you say that here in the United States, we tend to, our medical kind of focus tends to lean more towards the pharmaceutical end versus starting with the nutrition and some of the services you tend to offer, like acupuncture or, the herbal and exercise and nutrition? My experience has been like, oh, well, just this, here's a prescribed medication that will help what's happening with you, instead of what's your lifestyle, what are you eating, what's your normal exercise routine, what are you eating on a daily basis, or even drinking or whatever, things like that. I don't feel like those conversations are had as much as, like, when someone comes to see you for the first time. I feel like that would be part of your initial conversation.
For sure. Now, yes. Previously, not so much. Working in the hospital system in China, we
Vinny has something to say too.
All right, he's like, hey. We saw a lot of patients, and we had, maybe a turnaround of, it depends on the day, but we had 4 different rooms just in the acupuncture ward, if we're just focusing on that one. We had 4 different rooms open, 4 to 5 different rooms open, 10 tables per room, and we had about a 20-minute turnover. And we had just patients, every day, so much. So you don't, we weren't able to do that in that system. But kind of moving out, doing things the way that I want to do it, that's what I would like to incorporate, and that's what I am doing now for sure. And when it comes to America, it's a similar situation. These doctors are great people; they're fantastic. They just don't have the time to sit down and have those conversations. And also, we have to also kind of acknowledge the financial incentives around all of that. It doesn't cost a lot of money to start exercising or to change your diet. However, if the hospital needs to make money, what are you going to do? So, there are tons of factors. I'm sure that if physicians here had the time to sit down and speak with their patients, this would definitely come up. And how do we go about that? Different approaches for different physicians, I'm sure.
Well, and I think too, there's a lot of responsibility that should be put on the individual itself too. Like, instead of just like, well, my doctor didn't tell me that I was eating all the wrong things,
Right, yeah.
or something like that.
It's a very Western idea.
Right.
Individual sovereignty, it doesn't exist, in some places around the world. Yeah. Very, very interesting.
John, can you explain the difference between microneedling and nanoneedling?
This is the newest addition to my own toolkit. I was kind of opposed to it at first, especially during medical school. People were like, hey, we've got this thing. And I was like, that's a farce. People are just kind of tricking you out of your money. It doesn't really work. However, after I actually took a class in it and saw some of the research backing it up, and then realized that it's got a really long history in China, I was like, oh, maybe I'll give this a shot. And for the people that I have used it on, it's been dramatic as far as the changes that have occurred. So microneedling at this point in time is using a pen-like device with an oscillating tip. It oscillates at a very high speed, very much like a tattoo gun. But that tip for microneedling has stainless steel, like surgical metal micro needles at the end. It actually pierces the skin. You can adjust the depth at which, how far you're going with that. And it's used for scar tissue reduction, to improve facial complexion, discoloration, fill in wrinkles, rejuvenation, you can call it. So microneedling is actually using the needle tip that pierces the skin. And I think federally it's considered as a medical procedure, but it's not regulated here in the state of Maine as such. And nanoneedling is using the same pen-like device, but instead of a needle tip, it's a silicone tip. So it doesn't actually penetrate the skin, it just oscillates in a very high speed, and that oscillation, that movement, tends to open the pores a little bit more. So if you're using a serum, if you're using some kind of medication or cosmetic, that's going to help with those wrinkles, discoloration, whatever we're treating, then it will be absorbed a little bit better. So nanoneedling is really good in between microneedling sessions to help with recovery. It's an interesting one. We don't have a lot of people coming in for it as of right now, but the people who have tried it and the people I've worked with, they really like it, and the benefits have been dramatic. Like I said, it's really quite interesting.
Yeah. We joked about it a little earlier, Western nutrition, or quote-unquote nutrition, Western diet here.
Yeah.
What do you see as the biggest differences between Eastern and Western diets when it comes to nutrition?
Yeah, not much now. American culture is spread all over the place, and China has become very westernized.
Sorry.
So much has happened in the past 10, 15 years in China. So much has changed. But traditionally, the diets, you can think of maybe just a little more vegetables, more fresh produce, less processed foods. Chinese culinary arts are amazing. I miss the food a lot. And that's another thing. It's like so many different ways to enjoy your food at a table, and then everyone eats, at the table together. Everything's shared. So portion control is pretty easy, I guess, if that's what you're trying to do. Yeah. So lots of noodles, and it's very regional as well. So, if you ever get a chance to go visit China just for the food, it's worth it, So go on a food tour.
I mean, why else do you travel anywhere? It's all about trying food, right?
For sure. So good. I miss the Peking duck, to be honest. It's my favorite. Yeah. So.
What do you miss the most about China?
The food.
Maybe the food.
It is the food, yeah.
Okay. I miss talking to people in Chinese, to be honest. I felt really at home there. Eventually it was like, I kind of grew up there. My family and I, we'd hang out a lot. All my friends were there, and so I miss being able to talk to people in Chinese and like have that whole attitude around it. So actually, this past weekend, the Chinese American Friendship Association of Maine hosted an event in Westbrook that was the Lunar New Year celebration. So cool. Lunar New Year is a big thing in Eastern cultures. So we had a big celebration. There were a lot of students that came from Bates to perform. Thank you, Bates students. They did a really wonderful job. I actually got to speak to a lot of people in Chinese. I was there with the Maine Acupuncture Society, so I was talking to people about acupuncture and what we do, and the practice of acupuncture in the state of Maine. I was able to talk to a lot of people in Chinese, and that was really nice. And I was like, oh man, I miss that so much. It's a whole different personality almost. I feel like once I get into Chinese mode, it's like I'm a different person almost. So I feel, I don't know, maybe more relaxed speaking to people in Chinese. It's kind of odd. Yeah.
How do you stay on top of it? You can't have a lot of opportunities to speak Chinese now.
Yeah, I was. So this is a great question. It's like, how do we stay on top of anything? It's dedication and practice. I have a tattoo on my neck. People see it on the website or in my photos, and it means Gong Fu. Gong Fu is kung fu. And I got it when I first started practicing martial arts. I was 18. I was like, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I'm going to be the best martial arts master. You know how that goes. So I got this tattoo, but then I realized, like, for me at the time, it wasn't just about the martial arts. It was about hard work and dedication. And, I really wanted to remind myself not to get lazy. If you really want to be good, it does take a lot of hard work and dedication. So I did the most ambitious thing I could ever have thought of doing, and it was like learning two completely different medical systems, the Chinese medicine and allopathic medicine, in two different languages, while doing all these other cool things. And so... it starts with a morning routine. It's like wake up. We had to memorize classics in Chinese. I don't know if you're familiar with Confucian, Analects. Okay, so Confucianism is a big thing still. So first year in Chinese med school, we had like Chinese literature. We had to learn all of these things and memorize them. It was just like sitting in front of books like daily, just memorizing. I had hundreds of notebooks filled with characters and, just practicing writing. So I would spend anywhere between 12 to 15 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week in practice and study. And so now in practice, I'm working with patients. It's a little bit different, not as academic, but, morning routine is like wake up, go over the basics. We have songs that we learn in Chinese medicine, and this is a very traditional way to learn. So there's so much information. 365 different acupuncture points on the body. You have to know where they're at, how to locate them, how do you needle them, you got to know their names, how do you pair them, etc. So there's just so much. They use songs in rhyme to help students memorize these things. So, I have a whole album of like Chinese hip hop. So, like trying to be creative with it. These ancient poems that help me remember. So go over that stuff in the morning. Have a nice exercise routine, meditation. Get some nutrition, and then work. So it all starts first thing in the morning.
Could you give us an example of a song?
Okay, yeah. How about a different one? So this one comes from not just a song. I'm not gonna do it because it's hard without the music, but a little bit from one of the ancient books that we learned from about Chinese medicine called the Yellow Emperor's Classic of Chinese Medicine, and it's like yin yang者天地之道也，万物之纲纪，变化之父母。So, and it just keeps going, it just keeps going, it keeps going. And so you just, you go through this and you kind of you got to repeat and repeat and repeat and just talk, So it's just talking about the basic nature of the universe. Yeah. And it all starts there. So with the yin and the yang, and maybe you've heard of these terms, the yin yang.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and it all comes from there. So really cool things to go on there. We have like a 10 question song that I still go over every time I see a patient. And it's like, when you're doing an interview, there are these 10 things that you have to ask. And so, that's another one. Yeah, just, try to be creative with it and don't slack up. It is the writing, coming back to the States, the writing has definitely slacked up. But because we are able to write on the phone and use what we call pinyin in Chinese, it's kind of the phonetic way of spelling out characters. Most people... nowadays, if you're not in school learning to write characters, they don't remember how to write characters. It's extremely complicated. I remember I was in a pathology course, and the teacher was at the blackboard. We're talking about, I forget what the word was, or, sometimes in Chinese. This is the word sometimes in Chinese. And he was trying to write that on the board. And the professor, native Chinese, he forgot how to write the character sometimes because, everyone's typing on the computer, on the iPad, on the phone all the time. So if you're not practicing writing, it's very easy to forget.
Wow. Just in the small sample size that you gave us, there was a lot of nuance in that language. It seems, and it's got to take a while.
It did, and it's one of those things where if you enjoy learning it, it's not nearly as difficult as it might seem. But you have to really have a passion for it. Yeah. If you hate it, you'll never pick it up. Yeah. So it is tough. It's a tonal language. People don't realize that each sound has a tone to it. The classic example is ma, M-A, ma. And if you say ma 4 different ways, it represents 4 different characters, and it's 4 different words. And so ma, 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 ma. 4 different words there. One means to curse someone, the other one means your mom, the other one's a horse.
Wow! Be careful.
Yeah, you can see how in school, we might put those together. Yeah, so
I am so intrigued, and like I feel like if you're someone that has, like me, I want to book an appointment, but I don't really know exactly like where I would start. So I would like, okay, let's do a consult. And I really would like to focus on like nutrition and herbal, but there's some of the other things that I'm sure I could benefit from, just like discussing some of the quote unquote issues or obstacles that I feel like I have like on a daily basis. So I think if anybody kind of is in that headspace and doesn't really know where to start, doesn't want to go to like a personal trainer or a straight up just nutritionist, or, you know, like I said, doesn't really know where to start, I think you're a great place to start because you have so many different options of what you could help with someone, whether it be physically or dietary, or even like some of this is mentally, like some of the acupuncture can be for depression or
psycho-emotional,
yes,
psychiatric
right.
things.
Yeah.
Yes, it certainly can be. And yes, you know, I do offer free consultations. You know, come sit down, talk to me. You know, try to realize like it's not as, you know, mystical or metaphysical as you might hear a lot of people talk about it. Everything that I do is really based off of, you know, what we can find in a presentation and in the history. So, you know, it's a little bit more objective than some of the other things you might hear people. Everything goes back to the physical body for sure. Yeah, free consult. Come in, have a chat, and you know, happy to talk about your condition, what we might be able to help you with.
Yeah, cool. And like Steve Flynn was on, you know, if something's working for you, then great. Like,
that's all that matters.
It's all that matters, you know. I mean, we can look at all the scientific background and whatever, and if it's something that works for you, then keep doing it. So it's just to find the right thing. So yeah.
Locally owned and locally focused, Lydia Media celebrates the heart of the greater Lewiston, Auburn area through 2 magazines, Uncle Andy's Digest and LA Metro Magazine, and the new Lydia's Lunch Bunch podcast. Each production shines a positive light on local businesses, nonprofits, events, and individuals making a difference in our community. Keep your advertising dollars local and position your business in front of your target audience with Lydia Media. Learn more at LlydiaMediaLLC.com. John, we like to end our interview with 3 random questions where we're going to ask you questions that have nothing to do with your practice. Just trying to get to know you a little bit outside of Little Dragon Integrative Medicine. If you could have dinner with anyone from the past or present, who would it be?
Okay, yes. So my hero, who really took me to China, there was a practitioner. He's actually a martial artist who also practiced Chinese medicine. And there's a whole there are movies about him. There's a lot of legends about this guy. His name is Liao Jian in Mandarin, from Fujian province. Lived a couple hundred years ago. But he was the kind of guy that would like protect the village. He was he would ward off bandits, but also heal people. And I was like, I just want to be like that guy. And so that's what I tried to do. Yeah, I'd like to sit down with him, have a conversation. He'd probably beat me up, but it's like, what are you doing with our Chinese culture here? But you never know.
Yeah.
I noticed you did say you liked some like Jackie Chan and kind of movies like that. Do you have a favorite TV show? Do you watch TV?
I do. There was a favorite during the pandemic, during lockdowns. So Ozark.
Yes.
That was such a great series.
That was
it wasn't the best, like trying to get my wife, who's born in Beijing, trying to get her to come to the States. She's like, no, we're not. We're not doing that.
We're not moving to the Ozarks.
Right. So I had to tell her it was, fictional. So, but yeah, that was a good show.
Yeah, that was a good show. Yeah.
And that piggybacks onto my question. Can you give us your top 3 martial arts movies of all time?
Oh, yeah, Enter the Dragon.
Is that number 1?
Yeah, probably number 1. And the others, they're probably not because of the martial arts, but maybe more because of the culture. Kiss of the Dragon was another one. It was a Jet Li film. He was using needles in it, and I was like, I'm going to be that guy too. And it wasn't the best movie, and a lot of people felt it was, kind of dorky. And when you learn acupuncture, you realize, like, that's not how it works. But it did influence me a lot. And, Yip Man, the first one.
Yep.
So Donnie Yen actually came to our studio in Beijing to train with us before the movie came out. So big, it was a big deal in China. It was a big deal, out of China as well. So yeah, these would be the top 3, I guess.
All right.
Nice.
Good stuff. Are you still practicing martial arts?
Not as much as I hope. I am teaching across the street here at the YMCA.
cool.
Not martial arts though. It's a medical qigong. So it's a lot of people are familiar with Tai Chi or Tai Chi, and Tai Chi is a martial art, and they use it for health benefits. It can. Moving and breathing in any way is going to have some health benefits. But as a martial art, I feel like, practice it as a martial art. People, learning it, I did, a few years, 3 years of Tai Chi in China as well. But that wasn't the main thing that I practiced. So anyway, I don't, for health benefits, I don't recommend people do Tai Chi a lot. We can do something else called Qigong, which is, it's kind of like a mixture between meditation, breath work, and stretching, kind of like yoga. So we have classes going on at the Y Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Cool.
And that's been a lot of fun, but not doing as much martial arts as I wished. I thought coming back to the States, I was going to get a little bit more into MMA, do some jits, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because I was doing some Mongolian wrestling. The style that I practiced was pretty Baoli. It was pretty explosive in nature. A lot of I don't know, backyard brawling type of stuff.
I can't
was
see
going
that
on.
from him.
Yeah,
Can
I know,
you?
right?
Yeah. So it was a great time. However, medical school just kind of it took over, and now I've got a business, and trying to keep up with just the medical side of things is pretty tough. So I wish I had more time for it.
Yeah, not enough hours in the day.
Nope. John, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Great.
So appreciated. And if you would like to learn more about John and Little Dragon Integrative Medicine, you can check out the winter issue of LA Metro Magazine. The piece is called Simple Alternatives, and it's on page 28. You can also go online to littledragonmed.com, and John's practice is located at 369 Main Street in Lewiston, right across the street from Central Maine Medical Center. We want to thank our sponsors for today, Ruper's Beverage and Redemption and United Piping. And if you'd like to be part of the Lydia's Lunch Bunch advertising family, reach out to Pam via email at pam@lydiamediallc.com.